Right, we are going to have a bit of a Booktube debate today. The other day, I decided to Google the scariest book of all time. I was really curious because every horror book I've ever read really hasn't done it for me. Nothing really frightens me or scares me senseless. I actually find horror books quite ridiculous and bizarre. So I was really surprised when number one book voted as the scariest book of all time, according to Google, was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I read The Haunting of Hill House in 2018 and I gave it a 3 out of 5 star review. To be honest, compared to the other horror books that I have read, this one I did find more enjoyable. I found this article on a Barnes & Noble website and it said that the scares from this book don't just come from the malevolent actions of a house that seems sentient and angry, but it also has this kind of claustrophobia feel to it from this really unreliable narrator. Now the narrator's called Eleanor, and we watch her, or we read her slow descent into madness, which they described as being excruciating. So let me explain the premise of The Haunting of Hill House. Basically, this doctor decides to do this kind of science experiment to try and find out and discover if there is evidence of haunting in this place. He invites 3 guests to go and stay there for a week. The first guest is this guy called Theodore, who is the doctor's assistant. We also have Luke, who is the heir to Hill House, and then we have Eleanor, as previously mentioned, and she's a very fragile woman with a history of poltergeists. I am going to be 100% honest, and I know that this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I neither loved or hated this book. I think it was originally published in 1958. No, 1959. What I did enjoy about it was how timeless Shirley Jackson's writing style is. She creates this perfect brooding tone for her books, and with that she's able to create this really darkly atmospheric scene. There's this oddness to the relationships that she develops with the different characters, and I found that really interesting to observe. And there's definitely a big level of mystery and intrigue in the book. It's got a lot of tension building, it's quite a slow start. And there is this huge psychological component to this book, that it kind of all revolves around fear. I mean, okay, there's a few eerie moments in this book, yes there is. But I don't know, I really feel like the reputation it has, it didn't live up to that for me. I definitely don't think that it's the scariest book of all time. And to be honest, I mean, I've read one of her other books, We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and I thought that The Haunting of Hill House kind of paled in comparison. I mean, it was enjoyable, I liked reading it, but I guess I was just never fully engaged in it, and in my opinion, it's definitely not the scariest book of all time. Out of the horrors I've read, I mean, Paul Tremblay is a great writer. I think his books deserve to be up there. Bird Box by Josh Malerman, I thought that was excellent. Book 2 not so much, but they were scary to me. Other books that made this list were like Nightfilm, which is a book that I have tried repeatedly to get into and read, and I just can't. I keep putting it down and just nothing seems to interest me about picking that book back up. Then there's Penpal, which is another book that really didn't enamor me that much. Obviously Stephen King was up there, but we all know I absolutely hate him. Edgar Allan Poe definitely made that list, and I haven't actually read anything by him, so I think that that's something I'd like to get into. Poetry and me, it's a bit of a tricky one. I'm not much of a poetry reader at all, but I feel like, how can I call myself a book lover and a reader without having read Edgar Allan Poe, especially as I do love like thriller and scary stuff, so I've got to prioritise him before the end of the year. House of Leaves made the list, and that is a book that I have had on my radar for so long. I am so excited to read it. The thing with House of Leaves is that I've heard that there's a certain edition that you really need to buy where you actually have to read certain parts of it in a mirror, and it's like the whole book reading is this experience, and that's what I really wanted to get that copy. And I think the only one I can find is on Amazon for like £50, and I just can't justify spending that kind of money on a book right now, or ever. Especially as I don't particularly warm to horrors anyway, so who knows if I would even like it. So I don't know, to spend £50 on a book like that, ooh, I just can't do it. However, if I can find a second-hand copy of it somewhere, I would absolutely love that. I'm just very aware that it has to be the certain edition that I really want, and it's really hard to find. Another book that made the list that I haven't read but has also been on my radar for a while is Rosemary's Baby by is it Ira Levin? So this is about this young ordinary couple that moved to this apartment in New York City, and they're not really aware of the fact that their strange elderly neighbours take this very weird interest in them. That is literally all the premise on Goodreads says, so I have absolutely no idea, but I know it's got like over 100,000 ratings, and it's averaged at like 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So this is a book that I really do want to get around to this year as well. So yeah, I don't know, let me know what you think. Do you think that The Haunting of Hill House deserves to be the scariest book of all time? I really like to get open to these kind of debates and discussions. Personally, I don't. I think it's a timeless book and a fantastic book of its time, but it didn't give me nightmares, it didn't give me chills, it didn't creep me out so much that I had to leave the light on when I went to sleep, and that's what I want in a book. Let me know what your scariest book is. I would love to know. Anyway, have a lovely day, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye!